to me in Dhaka. In
Yes,
Dhaka,
that's
they
where you're
have,
from.
yeah, they are quite hardcore, and they ask you questions which really make you take a back step, back foot, step backwards, basically. One of them asked me that, so, acha, Sarnath, so why do you have to need to draw? Can't you just express it through writing? To which I didn't really have an answer for a while, till actually one of the British graphic novelist who was also in the Dhaka festival quickly said that, why do we need image at all? Why do we need text in that case? One can ask the same question that. So, to answer your question, I have to just go a little backward to all the the four Williams that have influenced my work. You can guess. You can take a guess of one William if you want.
Shakespeare.
None. So it's actually William Blake, who was sort of, who used text and image. For people from words where he'll be a poet or a poet, basically. For me, he's an illuminator. William Hogarth, who's one of the finest political, I would say writers even. When you see his work, you see the central work but everything that happens around the drawing is basically what actually illustrates an entire era. So coded in that world is an entire era, entire history, which is, I think, fascinating. William Morris, who used the book and design and also worked on marginalia, how around the text. And of course, William Hunter, the grave snatcher. So within these four Williams, I have kind of pretty much, of course, William Dalrymple.
Dalrymple, I was
the
just
new,
gonna
yeah, I know, I
mention
mean,
him,
you wanted it. But I'm just basically saying that these four Williams are fundamentally given us some kind of a sort of a route map as to how, for me, how narratives should move.
No Indian influences then?
Then of course, the Indian influence is happening parallelly because Hutum, of course, is a very big influence himself. Then all the scroll painters and Pabuji Ka Phat and Oran, the folk forms, etc. They are extremely elegant works. When people were still writing, at least in Bengali literature, still in verse, the prosaic nature of the images had gone beyond. If you compare history of image and text, you see the images have gone to another extent altogether. So I think I come very rich heritage of text and image, and I can't really write at a stretch. Anyway, I can't sit at a stretch for 15 minutes on a table to do anything. So I just I think this form is most suited to me. That's an honest answer. I can give you a smart, clever answer, but I'll hold back. I'll hold back on that. Yeah.
Okay. Shovon,
yeah.
Images. Because the competent authority is filled with these absolutely mind-blowing images. Pintu's hand, the entire thing blowing up. And I remember the last two lines. Bonani smiled, Pintu push.
It's catch-22.
Okay, yeah. And this. So, do you when you what comes to you?
Well, some of it is wish fulfillment. For example, I've been scared all my life of the police. So the thought of a mutant dog biting a policeman in the ass is very attractive to me. So when you write that down and then you reread it, so basically you reread it yourself several times because it's such fun. So a lot of things like that, it's when you look at, for example, the Monkey Brigade or people whose sentiments are hurt easily, you want to see what else they'll do.
But the Monkey Brigade is more like the sort of stuff you have on your blog, which is a kind of rational narrative that you're creating. But an image like the policeman's spitting his pan and the Beetlejuice staining the robe of the God-man, it's so visual. I can't remember a single word, but it's stuck in my mind, although I've never seen a picture.
It must be because of theatre, because when we were kids and in Calcutta maybe 25 years ago, we used to love it. Just across the road, right? Academy of Fine Arts and Norok Guljar, Shajano Bagan, everything by Utpal Dotto. They were crazy funny. And I think it strikes people as a little odd is because people don't write novels that way actually. You're supposed to be much more literary. Because the English language is what keeps us above the rabble, and if you sort of mess around with your primary weapon too much, then you risk sinking down amongst them. We can't have that, right? So you know, so I'd say it's more from Bengali things that I saw here. You know, I mean, Naru Guljar was such fun. You know, the fact that you took a guy's pants off and he ceased to be a politician. I was very young when I saw that, and it had a deep impact on me. If you do that, then you know maybe. And so ever since, whenever I see a politician, I fantasize about, you know, somebody removing his pants, and you know, who knows? In the fullness of time, it could still happen.
Yeah, a lot of our politicians don't wear pants to begin with, so it will be a little difficult.
Or whatever's like covering up the things that should be covered up.
Yeah, and so the satire. I was briefed. I have to ask you about satire. So you know, let me begin with Frédéric. You know, nowadays I don't know whether there is a space for satire anymore, because everything seems to go. I mean, I love the French because, you know, there's this 69-year-old president, and, you know, I don't know how you guys do it. That's something I'll talk about later on.
Please.
You know, Sarnath and Shovon will also join us. They will pay me a small commission, and we will find things out. None of us is 59 yet, but we are getting there.
Yeah.
So, but
he's an inspiration, complete inspiration.
He's an inspiration, yeah. François Hollande is an inspiration, yes, to all of us. Shana's wife just left. But, you know, what space for political satire when everything seems to go, and particularly with the proliferation of, you know, all these media and the internet. I mean, one would assume that for satire there has to be some kind of a moral ground which will outrage you. Shovon does it by taking, you know, absolutely bizarre premises like the bank of bodies. You do it through image. I have no idea how Frédéric does it because I haven't read his stuff. But is there a serious place for satire in contemporary society in France? And then I'll come to India later.
Yes, sure. In this very moment, okay, let's see France and the French president. He's very talented and gifted for humor, as you know, for his love affair. So, as a journalist, it's almost a pity for me. I had nothing to do to add. It's just telling the story about François Hollande, Valérie and Julie. He makes a show by himself.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You just report. It's funny
it's reportage.
It's reportage.
It's reportage. It's not satire. I'm sorry.
So we are very lucky to have Mr. Hollande as a president. I mean, as a satirical paper, he is a perfect character. Okay. So far, he was a little sad and not so interesting. But from a couple of days a week, he's becoming a real great big man for us. Also, his private affairs are becoming public, okay? So in Le Canard Enchaîné, usually we don't speak about love affairs and private life of our politicians, but we are obliged to speak about, because we don't write about, but we love love affairs, of course, as everybody. And so when politicians are so talented to be funny as our president is now, it's a real pleasure for us.
What about you?
See, what was the question?
Is there a place for satire now? Or are you just simply... I mean, I know you're lucky that a Robert Vadra exists. You know, you didn't have to invent him.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I think because he kind of more or less stole my answer, but since he's a senior person, you know, I'm not saying anything. But yeah, it's reportage, because if you read newspapers in India, you cannot make up things like Rahul Gandhi's fight against nepotism. I mean, who could have thought of that, right? Or you know, India almost going to war in favor of the Kargil war widow. I mean, I mean, it wouldn't have occurred to you, right? It just would not come to your mind that. So it's really, it's a rich source of information. I mean, I pity people in places like France. Obviously, it'll be very different. Yeah? If you go to France or England, like in London, the front page of the Times says Beckham gets new tattoo. That's front page news, right? Cat rescued from tree, right? And now you open the Telegraph and see what's happening there. There are like 6 murder cases on page 1 and 3 more on page 2. So it's like all action. I mean, you know, so all you have to do is kind of capture. I see our job is really sort of, you know, reporting, so that some of these things can be preserved. So that we remember what wonderful times we once lived in, and you know, hopefully they've getting
old. We're getting old.
Yeah, that's basically the objective.
Sarnath, is India rich sort of ground for?
I mean, my answer is a combination of the other two participants, basically. Nothing really spectacularly different to add. more or less similar. Yeah, it does produce the raw material. You need, for me, it also is a healing procedure. I mean, you need to have a sort of a sense of humor to just survive society, I feel, and to break it down for yourself. Otherwise, if you are just angry and outraged because all the time, then you just like, you'll blow up. And you'll know that you've blown up. Everybody else would not even notice that. So it's like, it's a defense mechanism to just sort of deal with life, I guess. I'm not particularly funny because I just it's like it's like an accent. Humor for me is I mean, unlike Shovon, who is a humorist. I mean,
it's my intention. That's the
your-
objective.
yeah,
he's
it's
a
your
very
intention.
serious humorist because
He's
I
a
think
serious, yeah, and Frédéric has his approach to philosophy is perhaps not like looking for humor, but an act of subversion. I just report like, and I have an accent. It's like Totlami. It's like or an accent. If you have a strong Bengali accent, you have it. So occasionally humor just.
but your humor is not verbal. Your humor lies in your images. You know, the way in which you draw faces, the way in which you draw bodies.
Yeah, but I have great love for all the people, all the disreputable men.
I'm reminded of Abanindranath. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
his figures. You know, I'm sure he's influenced you, even if you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it is all, but it all comes from a position of absolute liking for these people. I like that broker. I like the property agent. I like our little contemporary villains. You know,
The Chaiwala and.
Chaiwalas are nicer. What I don't do ever is to make fun of a class or a category of people who are not within my understanding. So like a minority community, even if I feel that it is politically within my limits to make fun of someone else's personal law, I would try to avoid doing that because I would not make fun of that. France occasionally gets into trouble with that because in the pursuit of the three tenets of society, and Europe also, I mean other parts of Europe also, and India does it all the time, of course.
Here you simply get jailed if you make fun of a chief minister. You know, so it's quite
Yeah.
simpler.
No,
It's
but
not simpler.
anybody who's slightly
You want
above
to
your
name the chief
station.
minister?
Our chief minister. No
Yeah.
problem. I mean, one of my colleagues was chucked into
Yeah.
Thana overnight, kept overnight for circulating a lampoon which had been circulated before.
Yeah, so anybody who's like slightly above your position, I mean, just like a fat, mota law, is that I can make fun of that person. I mean, he is meant to be made fun of. But anyone who's like slightly either the level of financial the vulnerability is lower than me, even that person needs to be made fun of, I would like hold back a little more.
So what you're saying, Sarnath, I think brings us to one of the cruces. I was taught this. You can't say cruxes, you have to say cruces of the matter, which is there an ethical sort of substratum to the work that you do, to the work that you do, to the work that you... Is there an ethics, whether you've spelt it out yourself or not, that these are things I will not touch, these are the sort of things I will not say. You know, I'm not going to make fun of, I don't know, vegan, leftist, lesbian Jews. Not going to make fun of them, for example. You know, that kind of thing. Is there something like that? That's what you're suggesting.
Absolutely.
The basic, I think I'm in a position to report on this because through the blog I collect a lot of information, so I can give you market research data using actual statistical techniques. And from that, what I figured out is that the funniest people in India in approximate order are Robert Vadra, Rahul Gandhi, Arnab Goswami, and Asaram Bapu, right? So, you know, if you look at, and that's research, right? So if you look at that, then what you get out of it is they're basically all powerful people. So I think that it's not just about ethics, it's also that if you want to be successful in being funny, and they don't have that objective, so please answer.
They're already
But if you want to be successful in being funny, then it's better to choose a rich and powerful target because more people find it funny if you bring them down a notch or two. So that's basically, I mean, the thought of Asaram Bapu being hired by Badrinath Vitaix as a brand ambassador. You know, it's funny because it's Asaram, right? If same thing you did for a lesser known person, it might not be so funny.
Right. So there's this business of recognition. Yeah. I mean, no, but that's not what I'm saying. This is typical. I mean, all satire. I mean, whether it's Hogarth, whether it's Blake, or whoever, they have tried to undercut
no, actually, I got sidetracked. What the point I was trying to make was originally was that obviously to me and I think to him as well, the basic ethics are that humor is a weapon, right? Exactly. So you use it in situations where you don't have any other weapons. You use it when the people against you have many weapons of their own, which they can use against you. So typically, poorer people or underprivileged people or weaker sections of society don't come into that because they don't have the weapons to fight. That's not the battle.
Yeah, like the stand-up comics, corporate stand-up comics. You sort of you're petrified going there because like there'll be some 10 gender jokes, 10 religious jokes, like somebody talking about like Muharram, somebody talking about like some woman, somebody talking about like this thing, and they like and Middle India just like cracks up laughing.
Yeah, the sound system cracked up.
Volleyball courts. It fills up like little like volleyball courts and stuff like that. It's I mean, one is scared to go to one of these places. And those are like absolute hot sellers. I would not. I mean, I know it's like humor for all. It's equal. Every equal opportunity. Everybody is susceptible to kind of digs and puns. I wouldn't do it actually.
Right. So, what about you, Frédéric? Would you like to
about the ethics? In France, we have one single example. In the Canard enchaîné, we decided not to print the caricature, the prophet's caricature. You remember the story, because we did not want to put oil on the fire, as we say. Okay, because the sensitivity of the people in religious matters is becoming so high that at certain moments you have to restrain yourself. And some other newspaper made a different choice in France. Okay, it's respectful. That's not a problem. But for us, we don't want to. We are maybe, as I can say, we are working for the common good. Okay, for the common good of society. Not only for the pleasure to be fun and to make puns and so on. So we decided not to print the caricatures. Okay. Second thing that why irony is so important. In the satirical press, because I gave you an example. If you say Mr. Dupont ou Dubois, as we said in French, is a stupid man, if you write that, is a stupid and silly man, okay. Maybe it's true, but it's not funny, okay? If you write Mr. Dupont is a very intelligent, brilliant, smart, and so on, you continue. Okay. The readers understand that something wrong is too much. And he understands by himself that this Mr. Dupont is really stupid. So you can mean something by the opposite. Okay? That's irony. So you're winning because you win. You win because you say the same thing and you are not aggressive, neither provocative. We don't want to kill anyone. We don't want anyone's death or murder, so we can attack in the Canard. We attack very tough and serious issues, politicians, but at the same time, we know that democracy needs politicians. That's the problem, and at a certain point, you have to be aware of that, and to be. To restrain a little bit in the tone, I mean, not in the meaning, but in the way of expressing the things. You have to find a good way, okay, not to add confusion and controversy on every topics and every issue in your society.
Thanks. Let me just ask one final question. We are running out of time, which is that both Sarnath and Shovon are also extremely astute observers of the Indian political scene, both at the sort of macro level as well as at the micro level, at the level of the common person on the street and so on and so forth. This is election year. What would be your wish for the new government? I mean, what sort of government would you like? Who would you want as Prime Minister?
Hello.
से दादा के आगे जेते था.
No, let's not break the order here, please. We've been following an order. Yeah,
Like a joint, huh?
yeah, absolutely.
Any kind of majoritarianism is something which I have. I belong to that majoritarianism. I do whatever I want to do. I get published whenever I want to. I reasonably privileged. We are a class-based society. I belong to. Problem with majoritarian society is that we were talking about Darwin and evolution. It actually takes you. It evolves you. Devolves you as a person. If you are not intellectually challenged, if you are even if you are Derozio, if you are not intellectually challenged by your students, if they only kind of make you into a David Koresh-like figure, your intellectual ability is going to become like that of a not very good, basically. So I'm just saying that if you're not challenged, you would not evolve. My question, I just hope that someone who sort of at least knows what it is to be a little vulnerable, to come from a society which is vulnerable, and I'm not that